Along the coastline of Western Europe lie the remains of one of the largest construction projects of the 20th century.
Hitler says, I want to build an Atlantic wall. I want defences all the way up the coast.
40 million tons of concrete designed to stop the D-Day invasion of Nazi Europe.
15,000 bunkers along a coastline stretching 3,000 miles.
Built in just 4 years, a vast network of indestructible bunkers, deadly minefields, and impenetrable artillery positions.
It's all separate pieces working together to make this going, like a monster, really.
It is the most gigantic fortifications that were ever built in history.
This is the story of Hitler's Atlantic Wall. The biggest construction projects of World War II, ordered by Hitler to secure world domination. Now they survive as dark reminders of the Führer's fanatical military ambition. These are the secrets of the Nazi megastructures. "6th of June, 1944. The D-Day invasion has begun. In Normandy, 1,500 Germans face an Allied force over 150,000 strong. Soldiers such as teenager Franz Gockel are relying on their bunkers to keep them alive. Bunkers that form an extraordinary 5,000-kilometer fortification known as the Atlantic Wall. The Nazis built this megastructure along Europe's west coast to protect Hitler's empire from an Allied invasion. Dr. Peter Lieb, former German army officer and war studies expert, has studied the wall's construction.
There were bunkers all over France along the coastline, in Belgium, in the Netherlands. It is the most gigantic fortifications that were ever built in history.
The origins of the wall can be traced back to 1942. Hitler's invasion of Russia has stalled, and over 1 million of his best soldiers are heavily engaged with Soviet forces. And then, in December, Hitler's worst fear becomes a reality. America joins the war.
Hitler knew this was coming, and he knows it's very bad news. Not only is he heavily engaged in Russia to the east, he now knows that Britain has got a very strong ally to the west in the form of the USA.
With the addition of hundreds of thousands of US troops and guns to help them, the British now pose a serious threat to Hitler's conquests in France, Belgium, Holland, and Norway. To protect his Atlantic coastline, Hitler must take defensive measures.
And so he puts out his famous Directive 40, which is basically rattling the cage and saying, enough, we need to get our act together. And in a series of bullet points, he states in no uncertain terms what is expected of his fighting forces and of his engineering organizations.
Hitler demands the construction of a 5,000-kilometer defensive barrier, nearly twice the length of America's east coast. Giant gun batteries and bunkers capable of smashing any Allied invasion by sea. The job of building them falls to one man.
Heil Hitler! Attention. These are the Führer's latest orders. The coast must be armed with as many heavy guns as possible.
Franz Xaver Dorsch is a chief engineer of the Todt organization, Germany's biggest engineering company.
These guns are to be enclosed in concrete.
Dorsch and his colleagues are experts in large-scale construction. They pioneered Nazi Germany's famous autobahns, thousands of kilometers of roads that still exist today.
I will personally direct the work. Is that all clear?
Dorsch has already built 20 heavy gun emplacements at Calais, the closest French port to Britain, and the most likely site for any Allied invasion. These giant bunkers, each requiring over 40,000 tons of concrete, will provide the template for Hitler's planned wall. Incredibly, many still survive today.
Visiting these bunkers, it's like a step back into time.
Arthur van Beveren is an expert in the Atlantic Wall and has been exploring its ruins since he was a boy.
These walls are 3.5 meters thick, and if you look at this corner, you can still see the shape of the wood in the concrete. It left its marks in the concrete while it was being poured. The huge dome-like building is the actual gun emplacement, which the 38 centimeter gun was beneath. On this side, we have the crew rooms, kitchens, first aid, and ammunition. A very atmospheric place back then. And I think it still is.
The shells are 1.6 meters long and weigh over 800 kilograms. They're so big that they have to be moved inside on a system of overhead rails.
So you can see the rail from the outside going through this gap up here, but you can still see a part left in this gap. And it was used to transport the ammunition. This is now just an empty gap, but 70 years ago there should be a door up here, and there was a table up here. The ammunition was prepared, laying on the table, and on this side there was a little train driving along the gun, and the ammunition was put on the little train and transported to the gun.
The giant guns of the Calais battery are capable of sinking the largest Allied ships in an invasion fleet, even before they've left port.
From here, on a clear day, you can see Britain on the other side of the channel. Britain is only 36 kilometers away, and these guns could reach 30 kilometers inside Britain.
Now Dorsch and his team of engineers set about building a series of similar emplacements and fortifications around strategic Atlantic ports. Newsreels in Berlin proudly boast of their awesome firepower. And no one is following progress more avidly than 16-year-old Franz Gockel.
In kürzester Zeit ist alles gefechtsbereit.
I'd seen so much reported about the wall in the newsreel that I was sure we'd be invincible.
Hier zeigt Deutschland im 4. Jahr des Krieges die gigantische Stärke seiner Abwehrkraft. Der deutsche Soldat
Soon, Gockel will see the Atlantic Wall firsthand, on D-Day itself. Throughout 1942, construction of the Atlantic Wall is stepped up, even as far north as Norway. Massive amounts of men and resources are sent to defend the coast, all the way to the Arctic.
Norway was very important initially because of its location. There's a lot of iron ore coming out of Sweden, and it's taken aboard ship in Norwegian ports.
Iron ore is vital to the German war effort, providing the steel in Hitler's bombs, tanks, and bunkers. The The Norwegian supply line must be defended. One extreme solution? Move a 900-ton naval gun turret to Åland to protect the port of Trondheim. Astonishingly, it still survives to this day.
Essentially, this is a ship built on land, built inside this mountain. A deep shaft, 5 levels deep, was cut into the mountain and was filled up with concrete, and the turret was placed inside that shaft.
The occupying German forces in Norway used prisoners of war to dig an 11-meter deep hole through the solid rock. It has to be lined with concrete before the turret can be rebuilt inside.
The guns were put in parts. 80 trainloads of parts went to Trondheim, and from Trondheim onto boats up to the island. The 3 guns are the only thing you can see on the outside, but the actual bunker is inside this mountain. When you look around it, it's like solid engineering everywhere. It's all separate pieces working together to make this machine going like a monster, really. The black floor we see here is the actual tower from the ship. This part is really the bunker, the shaft into the mountain. This part will stand still. So this is concrete, and this is a 5-floor deep shaft from a naval ship.
Just as when it was on a ship, the massive gun needs to rotate.
The whole turret is resting on these ball bearings all around us. Oh, really very heavy, really very heavy. I guess about 40-50 kilos. And they're all around, resting in the rail around the shaft.
138 steel balls carry the weight of the 900-ton gun and allow it to turn smoothly. The shell and propellant are stored 5 levels below the gun.
We got 3 different kinds of ammunition here. We got high explosive shells, armored piercing shells, and even shells with time fuse.
To maneuver these 300-kilogram shells, the Nazi engineers devise an ingenious hydraulic lift system.
The shells will come right out of the walls, the ammunition rooms, slide over here, roll on to this table, roll on further on this one, and when it finally reaches up here, you could traverse the shell up to the lift. Of course, normally it would be hydraulically operated.
The ammunition is lifted 5 stories up to barrel level, ready to be fired.
The effective range of these guns was about 37 kilometers, and that's as far as the eye can see. From the top from Norway all the way down to the south of France, you can find the same kind of bunkers. So it's not just concrete blocks, it's massive ships on land.
Alongside the heavily defended batteries at the ports of Movik, Cherbourg, Brest and the island of Jersey, a formidable display of defense is taking shape. But Hitler realizes this is still not enough. Between the ports, vast stretches of coast remain undefended.
Hitler puts out another order that 15,000 bunkers are to be built along a coastline stretching 3,000 miles, and they are to be manned by 300,000 troops.
Hitler wants every meter of the 5,000-kilometer Atlantic coast defended by a continuous line of fortifications. And he wants it finished by May 1943, in just 7 months' time.
Speer describes Hitler spending his evenings designing concrete bunkers. and he had locked in his desk a series of maps of the western seaboard, which